Right now, as you're hearing this, I'm out walking my dog. She needs the exercise. She's off the leash, which technically she is not supposed to be. But it's this time of day, in this heat, and I know these trails. There's nobody out here. She's a good dog, she listens, she's friendly, and if I hear someone coming, she's back on the leash before they ever see her. I know the rule, and I know exactly when I can bend it. And that's kind of the whole point of what I want to show you. To break the rules well, you have to actually know the rules. That idea sits right in the middle of the system I've built. Because here's the other thing I'm doing on this walk. I'm building an app, a real fitness app, one I'm building and testing right now. And I'm doing it out here, talking into my phone, off the leash myself, no computer, no code editor. I've never shipped a line of code in my life. I still don't know what half the words mean, and I'm building software on a dog walk. So let me back up and tell you who's actually talking, because it matters for the rest of this. I'm not a developer. I've got minimal development experience. Funny enough, I come from a family of them, senior software developers. Really experienced, really good at it. I went a different way, a career that's been genuinely fulfilling and honestly a lot less lucrative, but it's been fun. And along the way, I became an expert in a very specific set of things, working in teams, managing people, resources, and time, taking something messy and making it run more efficiently. For years, that felt like a completely separate skill from building software. I'm now convinced it's the whole game. Because of where the tools are heading, I think the person who doesn't code, the stakeholder, the one who actually lives the problem, is about to be able to make real software. I am not an expert in software development, but I have domain knowledge. And I think that's the thing that's about to get a lot more valuable because the tools for turning that knowledge into software are getting better and more accessible every single month. And the domain I know is fitness. I'm in my 40s. I still lift heavy. It's good for my posture, my bone structure, my strength. And I do a lot of focused mobility work too. But the real thing I'm always working around, the real constraint is time. I've got kids. I've got a wife. I don't get long, uninterrupted hours in a gym anymore. So I train at home. I know exactly what it's like to want to train properly and have barely any time to do it. And I don't really like any of the apps out there for people like me. So I'm building the one I actually want. Here's the exact moment it clicked for me. One morning I was training in my home gym, same as any other day, doing my thing, my own specific way of working out. But this time, while I was doing it, I just started talking to ChatGPT about it, voice mode, or honestly, sometimes just voice dictation. What I was doing, why I was doing it, all the little decisions I make without even thinking, the ones that come from years of actually doing this. And out of that one conversation, sweaty, between sets, I ended up with one of the best product requirements I have ever written. Not because I sat down and engineered it, the opposite, because it was purpose-built, straight out of real experience, captured in the exact moment I was living the problem. And it turned into a genuinely useful feature in the app. That was the epiphany. I realized that the gap, the divorce between the person doing the thing and the software being built for that thing is a massive opportunity. And it's an opportunity for two reasons. One, there is money in closing that gap, and there is nothing wrong with that. Two, and this is the one I actually care about, it's just healthier for software to be made for the real world. In the real world, get off the screen, get involved in your own life, and build from there. That realization is what eventually drove me to build the system I use now. It does a lot of things, and I'll get into them, but the one that matters most to me is simple. It gives me direct access to the canvas. And the canvas is the app, the actual thing I'm making. I spent a lot of my working life in manufacturing and product design, and the biggest lesson I took from that world is this. The first thing you do is make something you can hold. You start with a real object in the real world, and then the design comes out of that. Your final product might look nothing like the first rough thing you held in your hands, but you had to hold that first thing to get there. You iterate, you throw stuff out, you remake it, things get scrapped and rebuilt. That is not the process going wrong. That is the creative process. And I just don't believe you can really be creative sitting at a desk, grinding it out, staring at lines of code. That's sometimes necessary, sure, but I want to be playing with the real thing. I want to hold it. Now, let me be completely honest with you, because I'm going to be honest the whole way through this. I've never shipped a production app, never designed one. This is my first. I think it's genuinely good, and I'm planning to ship it in the coming months. And I want to bring you along for the whole thing. Maybe you pick up something useful. Maybe I get a bit of free advertising out of it. I'll be honest about that too. And if the app doesn't pan out, then at least I've shared the process. And maybe that's the useful part. Maybe I learn something. Maybe you do, but you have to start somewhere. You've got to put the real thing in your hands in the real world so you can play with it, adjust it, and slowly work your way to the final thing. Okay, let me zoom out to the idea underneath all of this, and I'll try to keep both feet on the ground. I heard an investor say once that the smartest move usually isn't some huge dramatic swing. It's to reduce your risk, and that stuck with me because it's the opposite of the story we all get told, where someone quits their job, bets everything, and vanishes into a garage for 3 years. I didn't do any of that. I didn't quit my job, and it's a job I actually like. I'm not betting the house. I haven't moved. I'm not walking around telling people I'm disrupting fitness. I kept my whole life exactly where it was because, and this is the part I really believe, my job and my ordinary life are not in the way of building something. They are where the good ideas come from. For as long as software has existed, having a normal job and a full life felt like the wall between you and ever building the thing in your head. You'd have the idea, but then you'd have to go find someone who could build it, explain it to them, hope they got it, wait around, and usually just settle for close enough. I think that's flipping right now. The person closest to a problem, the one who actually lives it, has an insight that's really hard to get any other way. A snowboarder can picture a better snowboarding app than an engineer who's never strapped in. A nurse knows exactly where the paperwork falls apart. A coach on the gym floor knows what an athlete actually needs to see. And for the first time, the valuable thing is the idea. And the idea is something you already have from your own life. There's another piece of this I've watched happen firsthand. Most software gets made by big companies with a lot of developers and a lot of experts, all in the room at once. And one thing my career has taught me is that when you get too many voices around one thing, too many cooks, a clear, coherent product is genuinely hard to make. Corners get rounded off, things get settled for. Sometimes the one person who just deeply gets the problem, working closely with a couple of great engineers, gets you somewhere better than the giant committee ever could. And I want to be really clear about something because it matters to me. None of this is me dunking on developers. Just the opposite. Developers are the reason any of this exists. I'm the guy standing on their shoulders going, ooh, what does this button do? Some of the best people I know are coders. I am not pretending to be one. This is not about replacing anybody. It's about people like me getting good enough at shaping software and at explaining what we actually want, so we can either build it ourselves or collaborate a whole lot better with the people who can. And no, I'm not certain any of this works. I'm making a bet. I've thrown myself at it for about a year, but I've stopped thinking about it as win or lose because that's the wrong frame. You learn things along the way. You get better. You find out things about yourself you didn't know were there. However this lands, that part is already worth it. So how is any of this actually possible? Let me name the real tools because I want this to be useful, not mysterious. The core of it is a conversation. I use ChatGPT constantly, mostly in voice, and that's the piece I'd underrate at my peril. Talking out loud is how I think, and it turns out it's a fantastic way to find what I actually mean and turn it into something clear. I lean on voice a lot, more than you probably expect. Then, to actually build, I use Claude Code. I run it in a setup with a couple of tools that let me keep a lot moving at once, Zelim and WSL, which are really just the workbench it all sits on, The app's backend runs on Firebase. I test real builds on my actual phone through App Tester. And when I need to reach my machine from anywhere, I use Chrome Remote Desktop, which is a big part of how I do this from a dog walk instead of a desk. And all of it lives on GitHub. And the build system I've put together, the harness, is something I'm getting ready to share openly on there. The goal is to make it available for people to use, adapt, and contribute to. I'm preparing it for public release. None of these tools are exotic. That's kind of the point. This is a setup a curious person can actually put together. All right, instead of me describing all this in the abstract, let me just show you one real thing I built, start to finish. This is the part I actually want you to watch because it's the whole thing in miniature. There's a screen in the app where you preview a whole workout before you start it. You see everything that's coming, and you can swap out anything you don't fancy before you begin. One card on that screen already looked great. The card for a run. Clean, clear, premium. But everything next to it, the circuits, the guided follow-along sessions, felt inconsistent and a bit scrappy by comparison. So I did the only thing I really know how to do. I talked about it. I said something like, make the circuit cards and the follow-along cards feel like that run card. Use yellow when it's about previewing and planning, and orange when it's the real live action. And keep the individual strength exercises as their own separate rows so I can grab them and move them around. That's it. That's the input. Plain English, no design language, no code. ChatGPT helped me turn that into an actual mock-up, a picture of what the screen could look like. And here's the honest bit. Because I promised honesty, the first version was wrong. It threw away a couple of things I actually liked, so I pushed back. I said, no, keep the big hero image at the top, keep the 4 little summary tiles, keep that premium feel, and once the mock-up was actually right, that picture became the target, the thing to aim at. Then I handed that target over to the build system, the harness, the thing that coordinates the AI that actually writes the code. I approve the plan, it gets built, it gets checked, and reviewed. And then it lands in the test build on my phone. And there it is, the thing I described out loud, sweaty on a mock-up, is now a real screen I can tap and use. And of course, some of the details are still off. So I use it, I find the rough edges, and I go around the loop again. Now, I want to be straight about how messy this actually is, because if I make it sound like a clean 5-step recipe, that's a lie, and you'd smell it. Sometimes the whole idea just pours out of me in one go. Sometimes I sketch it on a scrap of paper first. I don't naturally think in tiny, neat steps, and I've had to learn to let a thing get built the way it actually needs to get built, not the way I pictured it at a desk. There's a saying, no plan survives contact with the enemy. That is extremely true in software. So it is not one magic button. It's a conversation. It's iteration. It's a lot of close, but not quite. I direct the build. The AI does not run off and make an app on its own. My job is to decide what matters, hold the line on quality, and never lose sight of what I was actually trying to make in the first place. The AI writes the code. I own the problem, and I own the product. And that whole loop is really just one way of doing this, one part of it. There are a bunch of other angles, and I'll get into them over time on this channel. But there's one more piece I want to show you now, because it's the thing that makes this whole approach actually work for someone like me. It is so much easier to build something when you can see it and use it while you're building it. The app becomes this shared object that everything gathers around. It genuinely feels like leaning over one screen with a team, everybody pointing at the same thing, except the team is AI and the screen is in my pocket. And right inside the app, I've built a little control panel for exactly this. When I hit something that's wrong, a button in the wrong spot, something that just feels off, I don't have to stop, go to a desk, and write up some perfect description of it. I just tap it. I grab the problem right there on the screen. I leave a quick voice note explaining what I meant, and I send it straight into the build. That is the unlock for a non-coder. I don't have to describe the problem perfectly in words. I can just point at it. This right here, this is wrong. And the evidence goes along with it automatically. When you can see it, tap it, and talk about it, the person who actually has the problem stays in the driver's seat the entire way. You never just hand it off and hope. Now, if there's one real thing I bring to all of this, it's that I love a good system. Not in a corporate way, I just like things that work a little bit better each time around. Most people who build this way just say it plainly. You adjust the harness. The harness is the system. So here are a few rules I keep coming back to. 1. When something goes wrong, I try to fix the thing that let it go wrong, not just the mistake right in front of me. If the system made that mistake easy to make, I fix the system. It's a bit more effort in the moment, but future me is always grateful. You fix what creates the mistakes and you stop making them. 2. If I catch myself doing the same thing over and over by hand, that's a signal. It's a sign that step should become part of the system. Do it twice, fine. Do it 10 times, and I should have automated it around the 3rd. 3. Every system has a bottleneck, some slow part that everything else waits on. And if I'm honest about where the bottleneck usually is in mine, it's me. I'm the slow part. So a lot of this is just about getting the load off my own head. And here's a real example. When I first started, I got greedy. I had up to 12 of these AI agents going at once in separate windows, and you'd think 12 is better than 5. It wasn't. The cognitive load, the constant switching between them genuinely made me less effective with 12 than I was with 5. My own brain was the bottleneck. What changed it was exactly this setup. The harness plus ChatGPT filtering everything through one clear conversation. Now I can run those 12 again, but the load reaches me in a way my head can actually handle. Same horsepower, way less noise. And 4, this might be the most important one, never assume it's working. Ask, speak plainly, ask questions, get real answers. If I don't understand something, I don't nod along and hope. I just ask it to explain it to me like I'm 10 years old. And then, and only then, is it actually on my level? That's the big secret, honestly. Ask far more questions than you think you need to. Let me pull back one more level without getting lost in the plumbing. Behind that one conversation I have, it isn't a single AI doing everything. It's more like a small, coordinated crew. Picture a little team. There's one I actually talk to that takes what I want and coordinates the work. And then there are others, each one taking a piece and actually building it. I speak to the coordinator in plain English. It hands the work out. The others do the building, and the results come back to me to look at and approve or send back. And here's the part that makes me laugh. This is basically the job I've always had. My whole working life has been about people and teams, coordinating them, communicating clearly, finding the efficiencies, getting everyone pointed the same direction. That is the actual skill here. It was never the code. It's saying what you mean, asking good questions, and cutting through the confusion. Turns out I've been training for this for years. I just didn't know part of the team would end up being AI. Now, I need to be straight with you about that system, the harness. I'm still building it. It's rough in places. It changes constantly. And it is absolutely not some finished product you can go and download today. But that's not an apology. That's the point. It's a living thing. It's meant to be poked at, broken, rebuilt, and collaborated on. The whole point of this channel is to build it in the open with people, not to sell you something that's already done. Where I want to take it is a genuinely reusable way for other people who have a problem and can't code, to direct their own builds the way I direct mine. And I'm getting it ready to share openly. That's the direction. It's not me claiming I'm already there. So let me leave you where we started. Out on a walk, with the dog, off the leash. Because honestly, that's the whole point. Software built around a real life instead of a life spent chained to a desk. I don't know exactly where this ends up. I'm making a bet, and I'm genuinely enjoying every part of making it. And here's the one thing I'd push back on. If someone told me otherwise a year ago, well, I always thought I was already using my time pretty well. I was always learning. YouTube, podcasts, stuff I found genuinely fascinating. What I was missing was never knowledge. It was applying it. Building something in the real world with it. This is me finally doing that. And it turns out that using your own brain to build a real thing gives you energy. It doesn't drain it. The people closest to a problem should be able to shape the software that solves it. And that's not a someday idea anymore. It's starting to be real. Where I'm at is early and imperfect and very much in progress, which is exactly what I'm going to keep showing you, honestly, as I go. More of these workflow breakdowns are coming, including a proper deep dive on that preview screen. So if any of this sounds like your kind of thing, do me a favor. Like this, subscribe, and come along for the journey. I'm going to be sharing everything I figure out along the way. And when the harness is ready, I'm getting it up on GitHub for you to try, reuse, and adjust. It's going to be free. Fair warning, it's a lot of setup, especially if you're new to this. But I'm doing this to give people a head start, to share what I've learned, and honestly, to learn from you too. The early Blueprint AppHarness starter is now public on GitHub. It's rough, experimental, and meant to be explored, broken, adapted, and improved. The link is in the description and the pinned comment.